Laos is crumbling and Vietnam is wobbling.
Laos, hell, it ain't worth a damn. They've been talking about all these battles down there, and I tried to get the best information I could from CIA and from defense both on all this fierce fighting on the plain of Jaws and all, and the highest estimate is to the casualties is 150. That Laotian thing is absolutely impossible. It's a whole lot worse than Vietnam. There are some of these Vietnamese, after they beat them over the head, it'll go in there and fight. But Laos is an impossible situation. That's just a rat over there.
Thank you for joining me. Events in Laos on 6 and 7 June 1964 and the presidential decision following those events, the decision being the first U.S. strategic strike in Laos, propelled America to war in Southeast Asia. America's alleged best and brightest were blind to the danger that was coming, and that this strike was the clear turn of a corner heading to a bloody quagmire that would plunge America into the very predicament that they all claimed they sought to avoid, a nasty land war in Southeast Asia. Perhaps the U.S. would have gone to war anyway, but as you listen to the key conversations I have chosen between President Johnson and his principals during this 48-hour period of events, you will hear their thoughts, assumptions, hopes, decisions, and the reasons why President Johnson decided to conduct this first U.S. strategic military strike in Laos, which put the U.S. onto the path of armed conflict. You will form your own assessments as you hear these key President Johnson conversations, but it is clear as we listen that the President and his brain trust are woefully ignorant of the dangers ahead, claiming to believe the hope that one strike on a Pathet Lao AAA battery on the plain of Jars will send the message to Hanoi that the U.S. is serious and that Hanoi will back down from its invasion of South Vietnam. But this strike will be an opening move in a deadly escalation of war. Here is our agenda. I will tell you briefly of these two events on 6 and 7 June over the plain of Jars that created the conditions for Johnson to choose this strike. Next, you will hear these key, relevant conversations between Johnson and others. I have listed them in chronological order. Finally, I will end with an update to the story from my previous video of the missing T-28 pilots, as I have some additional clarifying information. The events that led to the U.S. conducting the first strategic airstrike in Laos was the shootdown on June 6th of Navy Lieutenant Charles Klusmann over the plain of Jars, who was flying an RF-8A Crusader from the U.S. Kitty Hawk on a U.S. Navy Yankee Station photo reconnaissance mission. Klusmann was captured but escaped 3 months later, one of only 2 U.S. pilots to escape captivity during the war, the other being Navy Lieutenant Theodore Dingler. The very next day, the same Pathet Lao 37mm anti-aircraft battery downed Navy Commander Doyle Lynn, flying an F-8D Crusader also from the Kitty Hawk. Air America pilots in T-28 sprung to action for a search and rescue and fired on the battery but did not find Lynn. The following day, an Air America UH-34 piloted by Howard Estes rescued Commander Lynn. Unfortunately, Lynn was killed on 27 May 1965, almost a year later, during a strike on North Vietnam. His remains have not been returned. I will now play the key Johnson conversations. I know you despise someone telling you what you will hear and what you just heard. I won't do that, but I must very briefly key up the conversations because there is some inside baseball you should know. The two conversations between Johnson and his mentor, Senator Richard Russell of Georgia, are quite insightful. While Johnson was the ultimate political animal, His recorded conversations with Russell were always different than with other people, more frank, more confiding. Russell is the only person I have ever heard on the Johnson tapes that will interrupt Johnson, and Johnson will pause. Russell is a fellow Southerner and New Dealer, and Johnson frequently sought Russell's advice, albeit they would later clash over civil rights, as Russell was a staunch segregationist. The first conversation, about a week before these events, is important to hear because it is LBJ at his least guarded. Both men are having a heart-to-heart conversation about the situation in Southeast Asia. On June 8th, before the strikes, LBJ speaks with Mike Forrestal of the National Security Council, either during or after the NSC meeting, who gives Johnson an update of what each principal's opinion is. Within an hour after this call, Johnson has made the decision to strike in Laos because he calls Russell an hour later and tells him of his decision. The U.S. Air Force strike will go in that night, the early morning hours around 01:30 Washington time on the 9th. The next conversation, the next day, between LBJ and Mac Bundy, I only included as I found it quite humorous, if any humor can be found in any of this. Then, that 9 June afternoon, Robert Kennedy, or RFK, had confidentially just learnt of the strikes and calls LBJ to recommend that LBJ inform congressional leaders. Keep in mind, the U.S. public knows nothing of this. Now, the Kennedys thought Johnson a mannerless backwoods yokel, while Johnson felt contempt towards the Eastern establishment Kennedys. But RFK is deferential to Johnson in this call, and at first I thought Johnson was just blowing off RFK, placating him, but almost immediately after talking to RFK, Johnson heeds his advice and begins calling congressional leaders to inform them of the strike that occurred. The final conversations are Johnson notifying 3 important congressional leaders and his Vice President Hubert Humphrey.
The thing is, it's going to be a headache to anybody that tries to fool with it. Now, you've got all the brains in the country, Mr. President. You better get hold of them. I don't know what to do about this. I saw it all coming on, but that don't do any good now. There's water over the dam, under the bridge. And we're there.
Well, you've got
over there, McNamara. He was up here testified yesterday for the committee. I didn't want to have him up here, but Howard County and some of them wanted to have him. So I sat up here at 8:30 before I started appropriation hearings. He's got he's been kicked around on it so I'm not sure he's as objective as he ought to be in surveying the conditions out there. He feels like it's sort of up to him personally to see that the thing goes through, and he's a can-do fella, but I'm not too sure he understands the history and background of those people out there as fully as he should. Even from his picture, the damn thing ain't getting any better, and it's getting worse. And we're putting more and more in there, and they're taking more and more away from the people we're trying to help that we give them. It's I don't know, so you better get some brains from somewhere to apply to this thing, and I don't know what to do with it.
Well, I spend all my days with Rusk and McNamara and Bundy and Harriman and the Vance and all those folks that are dealing with it, and I would say that it pretty well adds up to them now that we've got to show some power and some force, and that they do not believe, they're kind of like MacArthur in Korea, they don't believe that the Chinese communists will come into this thing, but they don't know, and nobody can really be sure, but their feeling is that they won't, and in any event that we haven't got much choice, that we're treaty bound, that we're there, that this will be a domino that'll kick off a whole list of others, and that we just got to prepare for the worst. Now, I have avoided that for a few days. I don't think the American people are for it. I don't agree with Morris and all he says, but
no,
it doesn't look to me.
He's voicing the sentiment of a hell of a lot
I'm
of
afraid
people.
that's right. I'm afraid that's right. I don't think the people of the country know much about Vietnam, and I think they care a hell of a lot less.
I know, but you go to send a whole lot of our boys out there.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. That's what I'm talking about. You get a few. We had 35 killed, and we got enough hell over 35 this year. So
that many, more than that have been killed in Atlanta, Georgia, been killed this year in automobile accidents.
That's right, and 83 went down in one crash on a 707, but one day, but that doesn't make any difference there.
That's a hazard our folks understand. They don't understand this over there now.
The Republicans are going to make a political issue out of it, every one of them, even Dirksen.
It's the only issue they got.
I talked to Dirksen the other day, Friday, and he suggested I have 3 of armed services and 3 from appropriations and 3 foreign, all of them foreign relations down. And I told him all right, so I invited him. Yesterday before the king, he gave out a big statement that we had to get us a program and go after them. And Hickenlooper said that they just had to stand and show our force and put our men in there and let come what may come, and nobody disagreed with him. Now Mansfield, he just wants to pull up and get out. Morris wants to get out, and Greening wants to get out, and that's about where it stops. I don't know.
There's others here that want to get out. They haven't said much about it, but Frank Church has told me 2 or 3 times that he didn't want to make a speech on it, but he just wished to God we could get out of there. I don't know whether he's told you that or not.
No, I haven't talked to him, but
I just use that as an illustration because he's mentioned it to me more than once.
Who are the best people we have that you know of to talk to about this thing? I don't want to do anything on the basis of just the information I got now.
I don't know who, Mr. President.
I've talked to Eisenhower a little bit.
I think that the people that you have named have all formed a hard opinion on it. I think if you could get to make a survey.
Rusk has tried to pull back. He's tried to hold back on everything. But he's about to come to the conclusion now that Laos is crumbling and Vietnam is wobbly.
Laos. Hell, it ain't worth a damn. They've been talking about all these battles down there, and I tried to get the best information I could from CIA and from defense both on all this fierce fighting on the plain of Jaws and all, and the highest estimate is to the casualties is 150. That Laotian thing is absolutely impossible. It's a whole lot worse than Vietnam. There are some of these Vietnamese, after they beat them over the head, it'll go in there and fight. But Laos is an impossible situation. That's just a rat hole there. I don't know if before I took any drastic action, I think I'd get somebody about like old Omar Bradley and 1 or 2 perhaps senior people that had government experience, not necessarily military. If he wasn't scared to death of McNamara, this fella Adams, who's the head of strike, would be a top flight man to send out there with him. Let them go out there and fool around for a few days and smell the air and get the atmosphere and come back and tell you what they think. Because they are new in it. They would not have a great many preconceived ideas in approaching it.
Now, one of our big problems there, Dick, the biggest between us, and I don't want this repeated to anybody, is Lodge.
I know it.
He ain't worth a damn. He can't work with anybody.
Well,
he won't let anybody
out there.
He won't let anybody else work. We get the best USIA man to put on all the radios and try to get them to be loyal to the government and to be fighting and quit deserting.
Out there.
And he just he called in USIA and said, I handle the newspapers, magazines, and radio myself, so to hell with you. So that knocks that guy out. Then we send out the best CIA man we got, and he said, I handle the intelligence, to hell with you. Then he wants a new deputy chief of mission. We get him to give us some names, and we pick one of those, the best one we got, send him out to run the damn war, and he gets where he won't speak to the deputy chief of mission. And we got General Harkins out there, and we thought he's a pretty good man. He gets where he can't work with him, so we send Westmoreland out. And it's just a hell of a mess, and you can't do anything with Lodge, and that's where McNamara is so frustrated. He goes out, and they get agreements, and he issues orders, and he sends stuff in there, and then Lodge takes charge of it himself, and he's not a take-charge man, and it just gets stacked up there.
He never has followed anything through to a conclusion since I've known him, and I've known him for 20-odd years. He never has. I went out with him around the world. In 43, the only committee went out during the war. We went everywhere, and Lodge was on there. He's a bright fella, intelligent fella, but he's just not a man that persists. And he thinks he's dealing with barbarian tribes out there, that he's the emperor, and he's going to tell them what to do. Ain't a doubt in my mind. But he had old Dean killed out there himself. So
that was a tragic mistake, and it's awful, and we've lost everything.
To get somebody with more pliant to Lodge would do exactly what he said right quick. And he's living up on cloud 9. It's a bad mistake. I don't know. I think probably the best thing you could do would be to ask Lodge if he don't think about time he's coming home.
Well, he'd be back home campaigning against us on this issue every day.
God Almighty, he's going to come back anyhow when time comes. I'd give him a reason for doing it. He's going to come back. If you bring him back now, everybody will say, well, hell, he's mad because Johnson removed him out there. MacArthur couldn't, he, with all of his power, couldn't hurt Truman because everybody would have said, well, hell, he's just mad because he got removed. And though millions sympathized with him in it. And you needn't worry, Lodge will be in here. In my judgment, he'll be on that ticket in some way. I don't think they'll nominate him for president, but they may put him on there for vice president. Or whether they do or don't, he'll be back here campaigning for that campaign over. I don't know. They better take that back. This thing is so hopeless for the Republicans. I doubt that he certainly got enough political sense to know that and not get his head chopped off in a perfectly foolish
Has Clay got any judgment on a thing like this? His experience?
Yes, he has. He has, but though he's inclined to...
he's out of the area of the world, though, mostly, isn't he?
I think Clay has... he knows... I'd take his judgment on most anything if he'd separate himself from his predilections, and he don't have any out in that part of the world. He's and I think people generally have got a good deal of respect for Clay's judgment, too. And there's a great deal of affection and respect for old man Bradley. He's not in his dotage yet by a hell of a lot. I got him up here the other day getting some advice from him on some matters, and I found him very alert. He's so humble, I don't know, he'd just be a doormat for Lodge out there. But he's an intelligent man. Now, Clay wouldn't. Clay will he'd stand up to anybody if he feels like he's got any support from high up places. I just don't know. It's a tragic situation. It's just one of those places where you can't win. Anything you do is wrong.
Well, think about it. Call me.
All right, so I thought about it. I have worried about it, and I have afraid about it.
I don't believe we can do anything.
Religiously, I have, because it's something that frightens me, because it's my country's involved over there. And if we get into there on any considerable scale, there's no doubt in my mind but the Chinese will be in there, and there we'll be fighting a dang conventional war against our secondary, not potential threat. And it'll be Korea on a much bigger scale and a worse scale, because the peculiar physical configuration of Korea made extensive guerrilla fighting impossible, but that's not true over in there. If you go from Laos and Cambodia and Vietnam and bring North Vietnam into it too, it's the damnedest mess on earth. The French report they lost 250,000 men and spent a couple of billion of their money and $2 billion of ours down there. And just got the hell whipped out of them, and they had the best troops they had, including practically a division of crack German troopers who were starving and lived in the Foreign Legion and went down there.
You don't have any doubt, but what if we go in there and get them up against the wall, the Chinese communists going to come in?
There's no doubt about that.
That's my judgment, and our people don't think so.
There's no doubt in my mind about it. You'll find Chinese volunteers in there as soon as you get, very shortly after we have active combat units engaged.
Now, Mike writes me a memo, and all he says is that we continue to support the Vietnamese, and that's number one. An end to the reflex of peak and face saving at every essay of de Gaulle's. Well, we've not peaked. We just asked de Gaulle to give us a blueprint, and he don't have it. He just says neutralization, but ain't nobody wants to agree to neutralization. And we asked him who will agree to go with old Ben Milam. We're ready, but he just says, well, we have to continue to maintain our strength and get in a position. But he's got no blueprint. 3, a realistic facing of the fact that we're in this situation without reliable military allies. Well, I know that. 4, an exploration of the possibility of the United Nations or some other arrangement. Well, this is Mike Mansfield, and they won't do a damn thing, even on the Cambodia border. We can't get a majority vote in the Security Council. A willingness to entertain any reasonable proposals for international conferences. Well, we are ready to confer with anybody anytime, but the conferences ain't going to do a damn bit of good. They ain't going to take back and give us territory and behave. We tell them every week. We tell Khrushchev. We send China and Hanoi and all of them word that we'll get out of there and stay out of there if they'll just quit raiding their neighbors. And they just say, screw you.
That's right.
So the conferences won't do it. Now, the whole question, as I see it, is it more dangerous for us to let things go as they're going now, deteriorating every day?
I don't think we can let it go, Mr. President, indefinitely.
Then it would be for us to move in.
We either got to move in or move out.
That's about what it is.
Future. You can make a tremendous case for moving out.
Well, now you take the Nixon.
Good one for moving in, but
Nixon, Rockefeller.
It would be more consistent with the attitude of American people and their general reactions to go in, because they could understand that. But getting out, even after we go in and get bogged down in there with the war with China, would be it's going to be a hell of a mess. It'd be worse than we are now.
Sir, we're in the room there. Everybody seems to be in this is Harriman and McNamara, Johnson, Bundy, and the whole State Department are strongly of the view that this ought to go ahead today. Mac Bundy feels that this is on the basis of my talk with him and giving him Unger's telegram, that it probably would be a wise idea to delay another 24 hours. In order to permit us to get all our ducks in order here in Washington and to get Unger in Laos more understanding of our problem. No one in the meeting thinks we ought to wait an additional 24 hours.
Why? What is the urgency?
Their feeling is that psychologically, if you delay another 24 hours, you separate the action of shooting down one of our planes from the action that answers it. They also feel that they would just rather not do it at all than delay. This is particularly Bob's feeling, but supported also by Averill. They think that if you don't do it today, you will get a sufficient amount of time will have passed so that the incident in people's mind will have disappeared and sort of gotten less, and you won't have support for the action anywhere. Now, John McCone and his representative, he's not here, but General Carter is. They raise a strong question whether this is really part of the scenario that we were talking about last week. They say this is escalating too fast. It's an action which is really out of step. The answer to that the State Department gives very strongly is the whole purpose of doing this is to give Hanoi one very strong signal now. Seaborn, the Canadian, is on his way to Hanoi. He needs to have something to back him up when he gets there, and this is the best time to do it, and we have the opportunity. So they want rather strongly to go ahead.
Well, we're violating the accords to do it, aren't we?
Yes, sir, we are. And
we've already violated them and sent an armed plane in there.
No, sir. We take the well. The armed plane, yes, we have, sir. That's right. Technically, we have violated by sending the armed plane, not by sending the reconnaissance plane in.
No, that's right. Send the armed
But sending the armed plane. And, of course, we also claim that they are in continuous violation of the Accords and so on.
They've been all the time.
Yeah.
But this is the first time we really violated it.
This is really this is Unger's whole point. This is the biggest signal we've ever given that we are sort of about to junk the Accords. The answer to that the State Department makes now is that this is only to be done once. It's a one-shot sort of operation. We are not going to continue this kind of thing afterwards. Bob McNamara agrees that we should not run any more dangerous reconnaissance missions over the Plain of Jars. Instead, we will move to another kind of action, the kind that has been discussed before, such as fleet movements outside of Southeast Asia, and various other things that are on that list of things which are not in violation of the Accords. Harriman makes the point that he doesn't think. Well, he says that Savannah can't possibly approve of this. We oughtn't to go back and ask his permission to do it. He can't possibly give it. But that his judgment is that Savannah will probably not revolt, although he says he defers to Unger's judgment in the field. Unger is worried about Savannah's reaction. I must say I'm having a hard time arguing for the delay, because all we get by delay is opportunity to think a little bit more here ourselves. We don't. Nothing's going to happen in the next 24 hours that will help us make this decision. More likely it'll be a little bit more difficult tomorrow to do it because of the cooling off of the situation.
I don't see what we get out of it, though. I don't think that the signal is what the result we get there is going to be worth throwing away the position that we have, that we want to follow the Accords and we want peace and we're not seeking war. It looks like to me we're just going in and starting it.
Well, it's going to look, there is that, sir, no question that there's going to be that element. I think myself that the signal may be a little stronger than you suspect, just because we've never done it before, and because it hurts. It's going to hurt our friends just as much, probably more than it's going to hurt Hanoi, but it's bound to hurt Hanoi somewhat. It's going to make them worried, because it does suggest the United States may be about to embark on some different policy, and they're not quite sure where it may lead. Of course, you pay the cost of that because your friends have the same worry. The whole world will have the same worry, just as you put it. Where is the United States going? To war or not?
They want me to come over there, don't they?
They haven't asked for you, sir, but I think you probably should on this point, because this is not. Napalm is out of the question. We aren't talking about it. It's decided not to do it, and I really feel you should.
Do you have any Joint Chiefs, sir?
We have one, sir, Wheeler, General Wheeler, who's pretty good. We have Carter, the CIA, State Department people, all of whom you know, and Colby and Cooper from CIA, too. McNaughton and McNamara.
What does Russ say?
Rusk is inclined to say go ahead, but he's very much, as Harriman put it, he sees both sides of it. He's inclined to say go ahead. He's not as clear in his mind as Harriman or Alex Johnson or Bill Bundy, all of whom think we ought to go.
Okay, I'll see you.
Right, sir.
Hello.
Mr. President?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Dick.
Yes, sir.
How are you?
Very well, how are you?
Fine. You've seen what's happened to these planes the last 2 days.
Yes, sir.
Our people are pretty unanimous that they ought to go in there and notify Hanoi by taking out this anti-aircraft battery.
Does it know where it is?
Yeah.
I thought they ought to have already taken it out then.
Well, they had to get that boy last night, and they were shooting the hell out of us all around it, and they had to pick him up because he was on that fighter escort armed, and we didn't want him prisoner.
Did they get both the boys?
No, they got the one that was armed in the fighter escort, but they haven't gotten the other one yet.
What kind of anti-aircraft battery is it?
37 millimeter, they think.
Golly, that's not much. Now people must have been flying pretty low.
We do 500-600 feet.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
But they say that's less danger than 1,500.
Well, I would think so.
They have given instructions. The ambassador is very much against it. He says it'll escalate it, that it'll likely cause us to lose the government, but all the Joint Chiefs and McNamara...
This was in Laos.
They said. But they think Savannah Puma will be very much against going in with armed planes and start shooting. And
I thought they'd asked us to do that.
they'd ask us to do the reconnaissance, but they hadn't asked us to start destroying any batteries.
Well, God almighty, if they go to shooting at us, what they expect us to do?
Well, that's the question. Now, the orders have been given, and they're about ready to go. The Joint Chiefs, the State Department. There's been some little question in the State Department, but Rusk, on balance, says that this ought to be done. But the ambassador feels that you violating the Geneva Accords, and you're now getting yourself in the same position that the other side's in. They've been violating them all along, but now we're going in and violating them. And if they knock a bunch of these planes out, we might be in pretty bad position. On the other hand, all of our military people and most of our political people feel definitely, and my own instinct is to hit back when I'm hit.
Well, if we won't be sure and know where it is and be sure and knock it out, it'd be a very great tragedy if we went in there and failed.
Well, they think they can do it. LeMay says he's practically certain we go in with Air Force people instead of Navy people.
Well, I wouldn't bet on the Air Force people being any better. Navy pilots, Marine pilots are the best ones on that low-flying rocket stack that we've got. They're better than the Air Force.
Mm-hmm. I think they've all pretty well agreed that these planes that we've moved in, Air Force planes and Air Force pilots, they've had a little more experience in this particular type of stuff.
Where are they going to strike from?
South Vietnam.
Well, that brings on complications. Wouldn't it be better to have them strike from the carriers?
They don't think so. They think that they're more accurate and better this way. Better planes.
It may be, but we haven't invited them in so much if we strike from the Navy, from the sea, as we have if we strike from base in South Vietnam. But I'm sure all that's been taken into consideration. See, if we strike from the sea, well, we strike from our own base, and we're not involved in the South Vietnamese. But if we strike from base south, then we invite them right in there to retaliate on us.
Anyway, you think in light of what's happened, we haven't got much choice, have we?
No, if we're going to keep up the mission, of course we've got to protect our people, and might well just knock them out.
Okay, I just wanted to talk to you before. Thank you. I'll talk to you later.
All right.
Mr. Bundy, may I tell the President where you are?
I'm calling from a phone booth. I'm 5 minutes from the office.
Thank you.
Yes?
Calling from a phone booth. 5 minutes away is Mr. Bundy on 9-3.
Yes, sir.
They've got some statement on disarmament. Have you read it that they want to release in Geneva?
I haven't seen the second form of it, Mr. President. I sent it for redrafting by the
Well, in the light of what happened last night and others, I don't know whether it's very appropriate for us to be lecturing people on disarmament this morning or not, but they're going to issue a statement unless we let them know in 5 minutes. It's always under a gun. These little jerks call up and say, if you don't tell me no, I'll be gone in 5 minutes.
We can hold it up, and I'll stop it until we have a look at it.
Well, wait a minute. Let me read it to you, President. I don't think it says anything. I don't know what this
I would be
verify
inclined, Mr. President, in the light of today's events, to change 2 sentences. The one where we talk about a peaceful world, I would say simply toward effective arms control and disarmament.
Well, now, let me see if you want to rewrite it now, because they're going in 5 minutes if we don't call them. Where is it now?
Well, Mr. President, if I were you, I'd say hold, and we'll give them a corrected version in half an hour. I'll be in the office in 5 minutes, and I'll fix it up.
Well, they say, though, they can't do it but 10 minutes. You reckon you just got one spot he can do it?
I don't think so for a minute, Mr. President. I think that's putting our fingers, putting us to a gun that they shouldn't do.
All right.
Right, sir.
Yes?
The Attorney General asking for you on 90.
All right. Just one second.
He'll be on the phone. Thank you.
Hello?
Oh, Mr. President.
Hi, Bobby.
How are you?
Fine.
I was just talking, Mr. President, to Mac Bundy on the phone. I heard of this incident of last night, and I asked him if the Congressional people had been informed about it. And he didn't think that they probably had.
No.
And, it's going to come out from the Chinese, and it's going to come out in other ways. And I thought it was rather a matter that would be well if it was handled.
Yeah, I think so. Some of them have been, but it hasn't been done as a group.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether the Republicans would bring it out and leak it or not. That's a great question.
But, of course, the Chinese will talk about it, and the Russians will talk about it, and it's going to be, it's going to, I would think you can expect that it's going to be, within 24 hours, it'll be worldwide. And if we had done it without telling anybody in the United States, they're all going to wonder, I would think that that's going to be a problem. The second thing is, it seems to me that somebody should be working on how it will be handled with the public, because the Chinese obviously will say something about it, and then what are we going to say, and whether we repeat it. And
I raised that question with them, and I've got another meeting at 1 o'clock where I'll raise it again. The boy in the State Department and McNamara both have had that question put to them by me. What's the man over there that runs their publicity?
Where? Sylvester?
No, in State.
Manning?
Manning.
He's a good man.
And I think he's been one of the best.
Yes.
His feeling was that we shouldn't do anything about it. My feeling was that we ought to go ahead and say something. McNamara agreed with him. I'm seeing them at 1 o'clock again, and we took the ball the other day and said that we had taken this action and announced it ourselves, and I thought got by pretty well with the other two flights. It doesn't look like they got much results last night, what they did. Have you analyzed it?
I haven't. I just, I just heard about it on the telephone. But
are you going to meet with them any time today or tomorrow?
I hadn't heard of it.
I told Mac Bundy get you because we've got to see where we go from here.
Yes.
They have no real plans. McNamara and Rusk both were rather insistent on going through with this one, although the ambassador raised some grave questions which concerned me. A, the reaction in the world, and B, Savannah's reaction. But they felt that unless we showed some strength and made some kind of reply, that it would be very bad for us. And we went ahead, but they were confident they could knock this battery out. They didn't, and I think it shows us that we can't rely too much on air power on some of these things.
No, I think that's a real lesson. The other, I had, about 4 or 5 days ago, we went through the plan for Vietnam, and I had some serious questions about it, that perhaps they're going to have some other discussions with you. But, I mean, for instance, the Congressional part of it and getting a Congressional resolution, I think poses all kinds of problems.
You can't do anything about that until you get rid of this problem we've got up there now, and the question is whether you ought to try is a difficult one, and I don't know how you can conduct much offensive without some authority.
Yeah.
We had the United Nations behind us, but we had a very divided country and a lot of hell, and we finally really lost, the Democrats did, on the Korea thing.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm fearful that if we move without any authority of the Congress, that the resentment would be pretty widespread and would involve a lot of people who would normally be with us if we asked for the authority. On the other hand, I would shudder to think if they debated it for a long period of time, and they're likely to do that.
Yes,
so neither choice is very good.
No. I think that they'll start asking, it seems likely that they'll start asking somebody to spell out exactly what's going to happen. And we drop bombs there, and then they retaliate, will we eventually bomb Hanoi, and all that kind of business. And what the answers to those questions are so difficult to give, particularly if you're giving it to a lot of people they're antagonistic.
All right, now if you don't, that's all true.
Yeah.
And you can't go into the details of your plans, and you just have to tell them that. But if you take the other route,
well,
then they ask you, by what authority, what executive order do you declare war?
Yeah. The other, well, I guess you really don't need, from their explanation at least, and I haven't looked into it, but it's not essential that it's not necessary constitutionally, but the alternative to that, especially if that's going to be very harmful, the alternative, of course, is for you and Secretary McNamara and Secretary Russ at the appropriate time to start bringing in the labor leaders and the business leaders and the congressional leaders and talk with them on, sort of as if it was a National Security Council meeting, and that you were briefing them, and this is what we have to do at this time, and that if you have to take any further steps, that you'll inform them and that you'll keep them advised, and rally and bring in some of the newspapers and bring in some of the television people.
And I think probably talk to the country about why we're there and how we're there and what we confronted there and what we may do before you submit a resolution, because I have doubts about what happened to it right now.
Well, that's what I think.
I think it just talk and develop a big divided type here at home.
That's what I think. And then some people will say we're not doing enough. There'll be others that say it's too much. There'll be some people saying, all you need is 15 of them up there that are doing that. And I think it's just, unless the ground's laid, is really to be unpleasant.
Okay, I sure want you to get with these fellas. I tell them every day, and I want you, and if they're having any meetings this afternoon after or in the morning, Mac Bundy told me this morning that they were going to have executive meetings until Thursday and come in with some recommendations on Thursday. And I'll get back in touch with him.
Can I give you one other?
Oh, yeah, FBI. I talked to them,
yes.
And they said they'd get us report in by the 1st, and I followed the line in your memo.
Yeah, well, that's terrific. The other person, Mr. President, who's got some sense on these matters is, again, none of us are always right, but who's got some sense and has had a good deal of experience is Douglas Dillon. So
yes, I told him that. I've told him that every day.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fine, Mr. President.
Carl, last night, this is very confidential, but last night we had to go in and respond to this battery in Laos and try to knock it out. And we injured it. We didn't lose any planes, but we did fire back at them. We've lost 2 planes over there in the last few days. And last night we went in to take the battery out, and I think you ought to know it.
I think you had no alternative.
We haven't, but I wanted to say it. I'd talk to you.
All right.
Okay. Mr. Speaker?
Right here, Mr. President, sir. Here he is, Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. President.
I called you Sunday afternoon to tell you about this thing we had a discussion about the other day, and I didn't get any answer at your apartment, and I couldn't talk to you again about it this morning.
Yeah, Harriet and I went down to Harper's Ferry.
We went in there last night to take out this battery that had shot down these 2 planes, and we destroyed some buildings and maybe had a partial success in taking out one of the guns. The Secretary of State, the Secretary of Defense, and the Joint Chiefs all felt like that after they shut down 2 planes that we had to make some response. If we didn't, why we just destroy ourselves. So we did that, and our planes came back uninjured and all back at their base. Now, we can't say anything about it. I'm going to meet with them again at 1 o'clock. Secretary of State and Secretary of Defense. I have a regular Tuesday luncheon with them. And I don't know who we ought to discuss this with, if anyone. I imagine the Chinese, who are speaking for them, will issue a press release sometime or other. But we do not plan any further expeditions. We will make a survey about once a week to see their location, so we can't get caught off guard. But we have answered them now and shown that we mean business. And I stayed awake most of the night hoping that these planes would come back. And 1:30 they went off, and 3 o'clock they got back. But there are 10 of them. They all back safe. And they partially destroyed the battery that was giving us this trouble with these 37 millimeter Russian guns. And that's where we stand now. Would it be your thought we ought to talk to Halleck and any of the Republicans about it?
It's bound to come out, I would think so, because of the
great. I had the feeling it ought to send McNamara to see the Armed Services people, and I ought to send Russ to see the Foreign Affairs people, but they got that bill on the floor today. But we've got to keep it to a very limited group. If we don't, it would greatly injure our interest by their talking about it.
Yeah, and the worst of that is when you get a group like that, you know what democracies are.
Yeah, they won't.
But on the other hand, it's bound, I suppose, bound to come out from elsewhere. From Chinese angle.
Yeah.
I don't know, Mr. President, but I would think there's certain things that you've got to. All we can do is.
My judgment is that we ought to talk to Halleck, and we ought to talk to Ahrens, and we ought to talk to the ranking Republican on Foreign Affairs. Who is that?
Mrs. Bolton.
Ms. Bolton.
Yeah, Mrs. Bolton.
I believe it ought to be kept to that, and they ought to be sworn to secrecy.
I agree with you.
You think it over, and we'll talk later in the afternoon, and don't discuss it with anyone.
No.
I'm going to discuss it with you and Carl, Mansfield, and Humphrey, and we'll try to keep it to that.
All right.
Okay.
Mansfield.
Mike.
Yes, sir.
This is quite confidential, but I want you to know it, and I want to get your advice on who else we ought to talk to.
Okay.
This morning, 3 o'clock, our Air Force planes went into this battery that had knocked down our two planes, this anti-aircraft battery of 37 millimeter Russian guns. An attempt to destroy it. They had about a 50% success. Shot at it with rockets and bombs in Laos, and returned to their base. We got them back about a little after 3 o'clock. I wasn't in a position much to talk there in that meeting because of all the employees and everybody else this morning, and you were rushing to get back up there. But they returned to their base, and I'd say it's only a partial success. Now, the Joint Chiefs and Secretary of State, Averell Harriman, and Alexis Johnson, and the head of the Vietnam Laos task force, and Bill Bundy, McNamara, felt like, in light of their knocking down two of our planes, we couldn't do it the day before because we were searching for this pilot that we picked up yesterday. But that if we didn't, that this was a test of us, and they'd just start moving again and confront us with a fait accompli before we could do much about it, and we had to give this signal to Hanoi. Now we've done it. We don't plan to do it anymore. We plan to try to take pictures, and we are trying to work out with Savannah what he wants and hope that we can hold things as they are and try to have this Polish conference. I have submitted all the things that you've suggested to me, and I've got Stevenson down here and got him to suggest all the things. They don't have very much of a plan. We can't go in there with the ground troops. The air forces don't get the job done and can't get it done. We are trying every way we know how to appeal to Hanoi And to Peiping, we have told de Gaulle that we are very anxious to follow any conference route that we can, that we are very anxious to follow any planned neutralization we can. He agrees with us that that would be desirable. That's what he suggested all along, but we've got to keep our strength there and show that we will react in order to have them where they'll talk to us at all. Otherwise, they just think they don't need to.
Yeah.
We have very confidentially talked to the Canadians on this ICC and asked them to go to Hanoi and say to Hanoi that we're willing to pull out of there, and get out of there, and stay out of there if they'll just quit overrunning South Vietnam. And that we may actually be able to work with them and help them better their lot. But we don't want anything over there. We got no interest there. We got no objective there. We don't want to dominate anybody. If they'll just quit advancing, why, then we can get out. We don't know how much that goes, but that's about the situation. Now, we talked to Hickenlooper and all the Republicans. Hickenlooper felt like we had to respond, and this was a week or so ago.
Yeah.
I told you about it at the time, that he and none of them objected, that he thought that we had to go in and show some strength. If it didn't, they'd run us out, and that would be a catastrophe.
Yeah.
Now, I haven't agreed to that yet because I can't see any very firm plans, and I don't want to get in a land war in Asia.
Yes, sir.
So I have held it back for 3 or 4 weeks, and now I don't know who I ought to discuss what we're doing with up there. My guess would be Russell and Hickenlooper and Saltonstall from Armed Services and Foreign Relations, you and Humphrey, the leadership, and Dirksen, and probably Fulbright and the ranking Republican, who is at Aiken,
Yep.
and keep them up to date.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any suggestions on who we ought to talk to? I thought I'd send Rusk and McNamara. McNamara talk to Russell and them, and Rusk to talk to the others.
I think the best thing to do would be if you talk to them all together.
It always gets out. And I notice these personal conferences with Rusk and McNamara, they don't attach that much importance to them, and we don't want to blow it up.
I see.
Because we sure don't want to give any indications that we're getting involved in a war. I've been playing it down, if you'll notice.
Well, I think
If you notice after the Honolulu meeting, I've tried to draw away from this thing that we're invading the North.
and you did it very successfully. But I think, Mr. President, even if there is a leak, it would be better if you do it rather than the others, with the others in attendance, of course, because it'll get out anyway. And it's a matter of ego as far as some of these people are concerned. And I think you ought to lay it out just like you did now. And so far as I'm concerned, I think you've done everything right.
Well, you all are voting this afternoon, aren't you?
Yes, sir. But
And if you come down, that'll sure get in the papers, and that'll be notifying them what we're doing.
that's right. Well, of course, you have to decide that. It's just my suggestion as to what should be done. The only thing is, if you want them to, we ought to be through with these things by 7 o'clock tonight. Drop in briefly for 10 to 15 minutes. But you've got to decide that, and no matter what you say, it's okay. You want to send the others up, all right.
Okay. God bless you. We lost these 2 planes in Laos. Our folks went in there about 3 o'clock this morning. That was the day before yesterday and the day before you read about them. We went in about 3 o'clock this morning and tried to take out that battery, and we had a partial success. And our planes returned safely. I don't know. We don't want to tell them what we've done. We felt like we had to respond.
Right.
The Secretary of State, the Secretary of Defense, and Joint Chiefs thought that this was the minimum. Good many thought we ought to do a good deal more. I couldn't talk to you all publicly with all those people there this morning. I talked to Mike over the phone a moment ago, and I've talked to McCormick and Albert. I don't want us to be responsible for escalating this thing and announcing these things and appear that we are on a bombing rampage, because we're not. We just had to answer. They're knocking down 2 planes with some kind of response.
Yes, sir.
And we did, and we got back, and while we didn't get everything we went after, we didn't lose anything, and we did make the response. Now the question comes is, what is the wise thing? McNamara is going to talk to Russell and Saltonstall. I've talked to you in Mansfield. Mansfield thinks we ought to call these people to the White House. I think that escalates it, makes it too important, and it announces to the enemy what we're doing. We're just doing that too much these days.
I agree with that.
So I rather think that probably I ought to call Dirksen on the phone and Hickenlooper, or maybe send Rusk up to see Dirksen and Hickenlooper. Let McNamara see the two armed services, and you and Mike have been talked to, and the leadership of the House have been talked to. But it's kind of like making an atomic bomb. If you go telling everybody, why, you lose the war.
I would suggest that you send both Rusk and McNamara to those persons together. It just seems to me that the two of them coming together is more impressive and has a tendency to give everybody sort of equal treatment. Plus the fact McNamara is a little firmer, and Rusk can give a little touch to it.
Okay.
That would be my view of it. I mean, with Dirksen and Hick, Dirksen is not on foreign relations, but he's key.
But would you think that ought to be done together, or are they getting along that well these days?
No, I'd send them to talk to them separately.
Okay.
Individually. Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't think you could do anything less than you've done right now.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Bye.
Now an update on the story of the 4 pilots who crashed west of Da Nang. Legendary Air America and CASI pilot Lee Gossett told me he had met one of the pilots at Udorn, and after their crash was told both T-28s were flying in formation and were on descent in marginal weather and crashed on the western face of the Marble Mountains, just west of Da Nang, which, of course, instantly killed all 4 pilots. This reinforces some of the comments that some of you left that it was doubtful that AAA fire down these 4 aircraft. Thank you for watching.